morning, St. Luke's. I used to teach American history and AP government and politics. Like most teachers of American history, I devoted much more class time to Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, John Adams, and James Madison than I did to Alexander Hamilton. In AP Gov, I had my students read a couple of the 51 Federalist Papers that Hamilton wrote, but otherwise, there too, he played a minor role in my course. Did I mention that he wrote 51 of the 85 Federalist Papers? Or that he was George Washington's chief aide during the Revolutionary War? Or that he founded the Federalist Party, the first voter-based party in world history? Or that he created the foundations of the banking and financial system we still have while serving as the country's first Treasury Secretary appointed by President George Washington? Or that he founded the United States Coast Guard and the New York Post? Or that he publicly advocated the abolition of slavery almost 100 years before the Emancipation Proclamation, even chiding his political opponents for fighting for freedom for themselves while denying it to black people? He belongs in the pantheon of founding fathers as much as his arch-rival Thomas Jefferson, the other public genius of the founding period of American history. At a time when our country was blessed with remarkably talented leaders, no one had more talent or ambition than Alexander Hamilton, who rose to prominence against all odds after coming to America as an orphaned immigrant from the island of Nevis in the West Indies. But history and the popular imagination have given him short shrift compared to the Big Four, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and Madison, partly because they all became presidents and partly because he died at the young age of 46. That began to change in 2004 when Ron Chernow's great biography of Hamilton opened many people's eyes, including mine, to Hamilton's greatness and impact and to his complicated personality. When Lin-Manuel Miranda, who might be the public genius of our time, when he read that same biography, he saw in it the story of America as an immigrant's story and a story about the power of language, which he has now told in the hip-hop lyrics and rhythms of the smash hit Tony Award-winning Hamilton the Musical. Take a listen to part of a riveting number from the musical. It's called My Shot. Follow the lyrics and you'll see what I mean about the power of words.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably should brag, jag, I amaze and astonish. The problem is a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough, a shiny piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get cold. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage. I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't never gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. And to me,
he says in parentheses,
don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually, you'll see my ascendancy. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. It's time to take a shot.
I dream of life without a monarchy. The unrest in France will lead to anarchy. Anarchy, how you say? Or anarchy. When I fight, I make the other side panicky with my shot.
Yo, I'm a tailor's apprentice, and I got job knuckleheads and local parentis. I'm joining a rebellion, cause I know it's my chance to socially advance. Instead of sewing some pants, I'm gon' take a shot.
And but we'll never be truly free until those in bondage have the same rights as you and me.
You and I do or die. Wait till I sally in on a stallion with the first black battalion. Never another shot.
Geniuses, lower your voice.
voices. You keep out of trouble and you double your choices. I'm with you, but the situation is fraught. You've got to be carefully taught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot.
Bird, check what we got. Mr. Lafayette, hard rock like Lancelot. I think your pants look hot. Lawrence, I like you a lot. Let's hatch a plot blacker than the kettle calling the pot. What are the odds of God to put us all in one spot? Pop in a squad of conventional wisdom, like it or not. A bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is. Oh, am I talking too loud? Sometimes I get overexcited, shoot off at the mouth. I never had a group of friends before. I promise that I'll make y'all proud.
Let's get this guy in front of a crowd.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Everybody sing, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Pretty good, huh? Now, to some people, this kind of language sounds too aggressive. Neither the King's English nor words befitting a founding father, and not appropriate for a public conversation about important ideas, political matters, or government policy. But if you pay even a little attention to our current public discourse and also listen to the Hamilton soundtrack, you'll see that nearly every line of Hamilton the musical seems more sophisticated, accurate, poignant, informative, and entertaining than most of what we hear from our politicians and so-called expert commentators. Much has been written about the decline of civility and inspiring language in American politics, with respected writers and commentators lamenting the disrespectful behavior and incendiary language of our leaders that they say has not only gotten worse in recent years, but also accounts for the government's inability to perform effectively, and explains why the public has no confidence in the government. It's hard to argue with those assessments when we hear our presidential candidates calling each other liars, crooks, and racists. But as bad as it is, and it's likely to get worse these next 2 months until the election, as an American history teacher, I can tell you it's far from the worst it's ever been. Here's some examples. In 1804, the Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr, shot and killed the former Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. 6 years earlier, in 1798, Congress passed and President John Adams, another founding father, signed into law the Alien and Sedition Acts, 4 laws that made it harder for immigrants to become citizens, allowed the president to imprison and deport non-citizens who were deemed dangerous or who were from a hostile nation, and criminalized making false statements that were critical of the federal government. These were our founding fathers who supported these laws. Fast forward to Abraham Lincoln, in his time, maybe the most unpopular president in our history, who was called the obscene ape of Illinois, and worse, by his opponents. Just before the Civil War in 1856, words gave way to violence on the Senate floor when pro-slavery South Carolina Congressman Preston Brooks beat the abolitionist Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner with a cane so violently that Sumner could not return to the Senate for 3 years. In the 1884, I'm going to put this thing up here for this. In the 1884 presidential campaign, Democratic candidate Grover Cleveland was accused of having fathered an illegitimate child, which led Republicans to promote this cartoon and the slogan, "Ma, Ma, where's my pa?" I could go on, but you get the point. This is not to say that our political discourse today deserves praise. It doesn't. It stinks. Some people make the case that the internet and social media have changed standards of civility and good communication in our general public discourse. Like many theories, this one has just enough truth in it for many people to give it more weight than it deserves. But one thing is for sure, it does us no good to believe that our politics are less civil than they were a generation ago, or even a century ago, or even all the way back at the founding of the United States, because that's simply incorrect. Furthermore, although I do worry that young people in your generation and the generation ahead of you spend too much time on screens, and I often wonder if you don't read enough books or care enough about precise, persuasive, original writing, I have not joined the camp that sees a society in decline because young people don't know how to communicate as well as my generation. Actually, I think something very different. Namely, that the definition of good and effective communication is changing. And people like Lin-Manuel Miranda fill me with optimism that language can be reimagined, even reinvented, to improve upon traditional forms of expression. But whether or not I'm right, here's another thing for sure. Language matters. Clear writing, with precisely chosen words and well-ordered, well-supported ideas, is one of the distinctive markers of a civilized society. Put another way, loose words sink ships and will earn you a well-deserved C-. Near the end of the musical, Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton exchange a series of letters that conclude with Burr challenging Hamilton to a duel, and Hamilton accepting the challenge. Each of these letters, written in the highly formal style of the 18th century, concludes with the stylized salutation, "I have the honor to be your obedient servant," followed by the letter writer's name. This is our equivalent of saying sincerely or best regards. Even though the two men were agreeing to grab pistols and have a shootout to settle their differences, they engage in this overly polite charade, a custom of language to suggest good manners and honor in spite of their deadly intent. Here, Lin-Manuel Miranda turns language on its head again. The hip-hop lyrics of the musical actually elevate the conversation and deepen the audience's understanding, while the 18th century niceties obscure the truth. In the final irony, Hamilton is the one who throws away his shot, but he gains a kind of immortality through the play. Burr doesn't throw away his shot and in fact kills Hamilton, but by doing so, he becomes the story's villain, as he has also been treated by history. So what's our lesson? For me, it's this. Hamilton, the musical, is far more than a genius work of art. It's an expression of the power of language, including non-traditional language, and of art to elevate our public discourse and our understanding of history, including the roots of our country. We can find many other lessons in the musical, but that one feels right in this year when our summer reading focused us on the arts and when we have a presidential election 2 months from now. And we have an incredible opportunity in 3 weeks to appreciate language and effective communication. On September 27th, right here, Mr. Ari Fleischer will conduct a town hall-style discussion on the 2016 election. In case you don't remember from last year, when Mr. Fleischer did a luncheon lead at St. Luke's, he was President George W. Bush's press secretary. That means, to quote another line from Hamilton the musical, he was in the room where it happens. Let's all pay as much attention to the campaign as we can in the coming months and weeks, so as to be informed citizens, of course, but also to show respect for our esteemed guest and to be prepared to ask him well-informed, articulate questions. Be young, scrappy, and hungry, and don't throw away your shot.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot.